So I'm Anil Gupta, Michael Dingman Chair in Strategy and Entrepreneurship at the Smith School of Business, University of Maryland. And I have the distinct pleasure of having this conversation with Mr. Rao Talasila, who is head of machine learning at Wayfinder Biosciences, a prominent startup based in the Seattle area. So, but before we begin, let me ask Rao, if I may call you Rao,
Of course.
just kind of share with us a little bit of your background in machine learning.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be happy to. Again, nice seeing you, Anil, and also it's good having
Lovely
a
to see you.
conversation.
Yeah.
So my academic background is actually in computer science, and I went to grad school in electrical engineering, and I've been with the machine learning, data science area for over the past 10 years. And before that, I used to be in software, hardware. I worked in many startups in Silicon Valley, Seattle, and also in Cisco Systems, and in the beginning, IBM. So my actual hardcore machine learning trajectory started in Seattle when I moved to Seattle actually 6 years back when I joined a startup called Xnor.ai, which was into machine learning uh, models for the edge devices, like in drones, IoT devices, IP cameras, and things like that. So Xnor got acquired by Apple in early 2020. Um, and then I moved to another company called Defined Crowd. Now it's called Defined.ai, which was into machine learning models and training data for the uh, NLP and speech area. And after that, I moved to Wayfinder Biosciences, which is a completely different domain.
Yeah.
So I'm now in biology. So that's my brief background.
Right. And obviously, what's common is the technical side of machine learning.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So let's Rao, let's look at the space that you're in right now, which is machine learning at Wayfinder Biosciences, which is obviously in the biotech space. So as you look more broadly at applications of machine learning in biotech, so where do you think, kind of over the last 3, 4, 5 years, where is it coming from, and where is it today, and where do you think it's headed? Not 10 years or 20 years, but let's say next 2 to 5 years.
The exciting thing is that this AI machine learning can be applied to each of those
Every.
5 stages. And the goal is to do it faster, right? Do it faster, basically, right? If you look at the FDA drug approval process, right? To get a drug to the market from the initial stage to finally the FDA drug approval process, actually 12 years, about 10 to 12 years.
Yeah.
So AI machine learning, hopefully, is trying to shrink it.
So and you said obviously that AI has applications in every one of these 5 stages, and of course even during clinical testing. But
Yes.
so if you take any of these 5 stages, what may be an example of how machine learning makes a difference?
Yeah. So I can give you a practical example for example, a drug discovery company like Wayfinder, where it helps it. Right, and then I can also share some of the
Mhm.
other examples that other companies are doing. Like for example, at Wayfinder, um, we are using machine learning to find the lead candidate uh, after doing high throughput screening in the wet lab. So we get some quantitative data, and from the data, we obtain we train the machine learning model, and from there we do in silico screening of, say, for example, 1 billion compounds.
So this is you have already identified the target.
Yes.
You have identified the modality
Yes.
or defined the modality. And
Yes.
now the question is, what could be a lead candidate drug?
Yes.
And
Exactly.
and and for that, it's like sifting through a billion different possibilities.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, to give you a number, the potential number of molecules that that are available is actually 10 to power of 60. It's like I can't even put a number. It's so huge. It's
Right.
like
Right.
it's like the galaxies, stars, and sand. It
Right.
exceeds the sand particles on Earth by trillion times. So
Right.
we cannot possibly do validate all those molecules in the wet lab.
Yeah.
It's not possible by time. It's not possible by the cost. So what we do is that we take a limited amount of molecules first, do the high throughput screening in the lab, get the data. Then after that, we can do the in vitro screening. Right. So I'll give you an example. Like say, for example, to screen about 1 million molecules in the lab, if you have screening,
Manually.
yeah, manually doing every day, nonstop, right? Every working day, it'll take you about 12 months,
A
right?
million.
1 million. But using uh, machine learning, we're able to get it done within 3 weeks. This is after you do in silico screening, we actually validate those molecules that the machine learning model is predicting in the wet lab.
I see.
So you
Oh,
need to close the loop, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's where that's where the rubber meets the road. When
Yeah.
you actually test what the machine learning AI models is predicting, you actually test it. That's where
Sure.
it
Yeah.
comes.
And how accurate are these machine learning models for this particular, the identifying the lead candidate for that stage? How accurate are the models now?
It varies, Anil. It really really varies. I think the idea is to improve the yield rate, right? Yield of the molecules that so you're testing in the lab that you found it. Like for example, I'll give you a number, and again, this AI machine learning and uh, and the biotech world is changing so fast. The number I'm mentioning, it might change in 3 months,
Yeah.
right? So I'll give you an example. We in one of our early iterations, out of 100 molecules that the AI models have rated highly, when we put them into the wet lab to test it, 20% of them gave good signal.
That seems pretty high.
Yeah, it is very high.
Yeah. Because obviously, say from a billion possibilities, you've gone to 100 and or 120.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now, of course, so obviously, let's say these 20 are kind of strong candidates, which need to be evaluated further.
Yes,
So 80
exactly.
might be, let's say, called false positives in some
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Is there also the possibility of false negatives?
Of course, of course. This is because, for example, I'll give you an example. I mean, we screen, say we screen about 5 million molecules, and we obtain 100, right? So we take the top 100, and we can't really put all 100 in the wet lab. There's a human in the loop involvement,
Hmm.
because this is where the domain expertise of the chemistry and the biology experts come in. So we sit in a room, all of us, folks would actually go through the 100 molecules, the structure. We look at the structure, 2D structures and the 3D structures. Some of us, with a human experience, come and say, okay, this molecule looks good. This molecule, nah, no way, it's going to do it. So, and then we bring it down to 20 or 30 and then put it into the wet lab. So out of the 20 or 30, if 10% or 20% come up as good signals, that's a great yield.
Yeah.
But of course,
yeah,
as you said, right? That's only the first step. We need to again have that molecule pass through other hurdles, like for example, toxicity, permeability, and all that stuff.
Got it. So let me, pick up on something you were saying just now, that, you sit in the room, and of course you got machine learning people, technical on the computer science side, like you, and then there are the biotech people.
Yeah.
And so for somebody to, let's say, looking for a career in this space, it's like you're not coming from a biotech background.
Yes.
You're coming from machine learning background,
Yes.
computer science background.
Yep.
So how did you make the transition to biotech? That's one question. Then there's the reverse question, which is that if somebody is coming from a biotech background, should they acquire expertise in machine learning, or should they really say, I'm going to partner with people like Rao?
Okay, you asked a very challenging question, Anil. But I'll explain in both ways. I think the effort should come from both ways. So the machine learning folks have to get into chemistry and biology. And the biologists and the med chemists, they have to understand something about how machine learning models are trained. You need to understand the architectures, for example, transformer architectures, right? Autoencoder architectures, at least. So I would say 2 levels deep out of 5 levels, right? You don't have to go all the 5 levels, but first 2 levels out of 5, you got to understand. So it's only when people know how to use the language the other side uses frequently, that's when the collaboration happens.
Right. And otherwise, like, you have to understand, you have to engage in a dialogue. And if you don't have that bridge, intellectual bridge in your own mind to the other side, it's going to be difficult to have a useful dialogue.
Yes.
Yeah. It's almost like, could one, let's say, put even at a gross approximation level, say like so you're coming from machine learning background. So you will say 100 units of knowledge. And now some of that is machine learning and some of that is biotech.
Yes.
So would it be like 95-5, or would it be more like 70-30? And on the other side, similarly, for a biotech person, that they need to understand something about machine learning.
Yeah. I would say I want to be 70% machine learning, 30% I have to be good at chemistry and biology.
That's pretty high. That's
it is
actually
high.
a higher ratio on the other side that I would have imagined.
So I'll give you an example, right? Now we are also trying out actually generative AI, where we're not going through in silico screening of a billion molecules, but we're having the generative AI create synthetic molecules based upon the properties that we want. We just say, hey, these are the functional blocks of the functional chemistry blocks that we want in the molecule. Because we know by intuition that, hey, I think the drug molecule that we want to go after has to have a carboxyl group or an amine group. And how do you put that as Lego blocks and put together the molecule that does our thing. Now, generative AI, just push of a button, so it can create 1 million molecules in 2 minutes, right? But if I don't know chemistry, I might be creating junky molecules, no use.
Yeah.
So
Because
that's why,
you have to know what is that you're asking the system to do,
exactly.
right? Yeah. Got it. And that's where the domain knowledge
Yes,
is important.
yes. I can even speculate in the future, at least in the biotech, chemistry, biology, uh, 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 domain knowledge in chemistry, biology, um, uh, uh, would get higher weight than somebody being, hey, I'm 100% AI guru, right? So this is what happens actually is that there are many startups and companies which are 100% AI, 100% machine learning. It might be very challenging, I would say,
Yeah.
that because you're creating all these things
Right.
in silico,
Sure.
because the amount of biology that we know, we understand
Yeah.
how our bodies work, we
Yeah.
only know 10 to maybe 10 to 15%, or if I dare, maybe under 15%. We don't understand our biology well.
Yeah.
So doing everything in silico and 100% in silico, that's a challenge.
Yeah. I can imagine, and certainly, I mean, biology or biotech, I mean, that's extremely complex, specialized knowledge domain. But take something that's also specialized, but far less specialized than biotech is law. And so the applications of machine learning to law or to legal services sector. And so there is a prominent startup called Harvey out of Silicon Valley, and
Yep.
Harvey is, it's after the character in the series Suits, Netflix series Suits. The main
Yep.
character is Harvey, so they picked the name from there. And so Harvey is one of the 2 or 3 most prominent and successful, already multi-billion-dollar valuation startups in that space. But the Harvey was co-founded by a machine learning expert from DeepMind and a Stanford Law School graduate. So you
Hmm.
needed that combination of domain knowledge. And of course, if you need that in law, which is ultimately you're talking about English language documents.
Yep.
But in the case of biotech, you're not even talking about English language documents and so on. I mean, certainly not in the standard sense. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. This is now maybe the last question, Rob, which is that you talked about generative AI. And so one of the things that we can observe in the evolution of machine learning as a technology is that, and especially if you look at the LLMs, the chatbots, that it's become, the user interface has become a lot more intuitive and obviously requires far less technical knowledge. And so if you look ahead 5 years from now, and let me ask a provocative question, and I ask that purely for fun, that could it be that, say, in a company like the Wayfinder Biosciences of 5 years from now, that the biotech specialists don't need people such as yourself because they can interact directly with the chatbot.
Yeah. Um, I think it's like uh, um, it's like asking, is there an Excel expert that we hire? Right? We don't ask anymore. Right now, we we all learn
Right.
how to use Excel. Now,
Correct.
Excel has become part of it. Right? There's no job that exists that say, hey, I'm an Excel expert. I think in the future, this AI will just become part of what we are using, uh, and and soon it'll evolve a point. Actually, 5 years from now, that ratio where I said 30-70, it might even become 40-50. Maybe actually 3 years from now, I'll so I'll be scored level. I'll be scored at level 3 out of a high of
Right,
5
right, right,
in
right, right.
chemistry.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
I think that's what has happened. I think my prediction is that number of computer science people, you don't need so many computer science people. I
Oh, yeah. I
think
mean, simple coders already that story is already obvious.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. But you still need machine learning engineers.
Yeah. You need machine learning engineers who advance the architectures to try to understand the grammar of biology, grammar of chemistry, when we only know 10-15%, right? For
Yeah.
example, even in 5 years from now, the chatbots, they're still thinking in the biology that we know, which is only 10% or 15%. So unless we increase the uh, the data or the understanding of biology,
On which they are trained.
yes. So they just trained on the 10 to 15%.
Right,
So
right, right.
you still need the biologists and the chemistry and the ML people to come in together and increase that 10 to 15% of understanding to 40%,
Right, 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 right.
50%.
Right, right, right,
Then
right.
I can say that, then I
Correct,
think
correct, correct.
the moment you hit the threshold
Right,
that, oh, we understand 50% of our biology,
right,
then we can say at the time,
right,
you
right,
don't
right,
need you don't
right,
need
right,
machine
right,
learning
right,
folks.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, so essentially, I mean, unlike your chatbots, that could write a legal document or that could write an essay or something like that, in the generative AI in the biotech space, there's still a lot more to go. Yeah, yeah. Because the underlying data, on which it has been trained is still a tiny fraction.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like there's so many unknowns, right? And so
Mm.
even the best of the LLMs that you have, it is just trained on that on the 10% that we know,
Yeah, got
right?
it.
That cannot create the thing. I mean, so LLMs and chatbots gives you a hint, but it's a human creativity has to
Yeah,
come in, and we have to do that experimentation to actually prove those hypotheses and create that uh, create the data, right? Create the knowledge on which the future LLMs would be trained.
yeah, yeah. So I think maybe, Rao, we'll bring it to a close now. I'd planned for about 20 minutes of your time, and I've taken 35. So let me kind of, discretion be the better part of valor. So thank you so much. Appreciate. Fantastic
Anil, and
conversation.
enjoy the conversation.
Yeah. And this, of course, is one of our several ongoing conversations of the last few years, and I look forward to more.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too.
Yeah. Thanks, Rao. Bye.